where you're trying to work through a lot of your issues, and perfectionism is one of them. Definitely. And it is something that can trigger migraines. It's the stress of not being perfect and putting all this pressure on yourself.
You're listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author Sarah Box. We focus on the mantra, no labels, no limits, no excuses. And now without further ado, please welcome your commanding coach with plenty of chutzpah and heart, Sarah Box.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the No Labels, No Limits podcast. I'm Sarah Box, your host. Today's guest is Jen Anderson, a self-proclaimed professional imperfectionist, writer, .com veteran, and creator of the Accomplist app, a to-do list designed for real humans, not productivity robots. Already singing your praises, Jen. But Jen really helps people who feel like they're never doing enough, even when they're actually doing everything. She's on a mission to dismantle the pressure we can feel, and a lot of women do feel, to be perfect, to stay polished, and to keep every ball in the air. So through Accomplist, she's helping people find peace with progress and quiet the inner critic that keeps moving the goalpost. And can I ever relate to that? So in this episode, we're going to explore what it means to work with your humanity, not against it, and why your business and you don't need to look like everyone else's or anyone else's to be successful. So if you've ever felt like a hot mess in a world of curated success stories, Jen's here to say you're not broken, you're just real. So with that, let me formally welcome Jen to the No Labels, No Limits podcast. Hi, Jen.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm glad to have you because I cannot tell you the number of people I either interview or coach or meet casually, more often than not, women than men, who have this long list. And unless it's done, it's a feeling of like, I didn't succeed, or tomorrow's even worse than I thought it would be. So with that as in a preamble, if you will, what inspired you to create Accomplist, and how is it different from like the traditional to-do applications?
Well, I was looking for a system for myself. I designed it because I wanted it. I was a systems analyst back during the .com years, so doing functional design of software is easy for me. That's how I solve problems. But I became a freelance writer, and which I love doing. But being a freelancer, your schedule's a little all over the place. It's not going into the office and getting in your little hamster wheel and getting to work for the night set number of hours and that kind of thing. It's all right. How much work do I have to do today? How much time do I have for networking and outreach and things like that? And so getting a view of what I actually had to do was, I wanted that. And it was very hard to get. And in a paper system, it wasn't working. In apps, it wasn't working. And with apps, say, you want to go on LinkedIn every day. That's the goal. But if you go 4 days a week, that's spectacular. But if you put it in an app as a repeating task that's daily, and it shows up, and you don't do it one day, it shows up the next day as if you need to do it twice today, which, no, I know I didn't do it. I know I'm not getting everything done. I do not need an app to tell me this. So Accomplist has no red, no overdue status. You can mark things skipped or delegated, and as well as completed. And that's fine. And if you have any daily repeating tasks, then it's treated like a separate thing. That doesn't get carried over. Everything else gets carried over to the next day. You'll get to it eventually, but it's not bright red or overdue. But your repeating tasks, it's just a separate thing. And there's an integrated habit tracker, actually. So you can put your habits on your to-do list so that you don't forget to take a meditation break or whatever. And, it's the skipped. The skipped is a big thing. and the treating repeating tasks as separate entities was huge for me. Oh dear, I can't hear you. Yeah.
I just updated my some of my tasks today, and I thought, why is that there? I didn't do it. I have to move it over, but now it's a different time and a different time length, and so it shows up, and it's annoying And I think, and I may not even get to it. So it sounds like Accomplist would have been a better tool for me.
It might be, it's for people who end the day thinking that they didn't do enough. You start the day looking at your to-do list and you think, oh, that's not enough. I can do more than that. And by the end of the day, you didn't even get through the original list because you were forgetting about all the little things that you do automatically. Pick up the kids from school. You have to, not just eat lunch, you have to obtain or prepare lunch. And these things that take so much more time and energy than we give them credit for.
So,
And
how
then
do you help people distinguish between what's a task, what's a habit, what is daily life, so that it's not, because when you're talking about being a freelance writer, I totally related to that. I mean, that's like coaching. It's like you're in charge of your schedule. Um, but there is a line between thinking it's a must do, something that's helpful to do, or something that the zeitgeist says, hey, if you want to be successful, you need to do this. So how can how can you help us think about that differently, whether it's through Accomplist or something else? Because I know that's something you've been successful with.
well, I like to talk about your big picture list and your little picture list, and then your daily list. Your big picture list is all of your projects, everything you want to get done, and get it all out of your brain, all these great things. And you could put that into the app. Then your small picture list is all those little things. I got to brush my teeth. I got to take a shower. I have to do the dishes. All these little things that you forget about. And you could put them in the app as repeating tasks so that when the app automatically generates a to-day list for you, they'll be there. And that's not your to-day. Those are both separate from your daily to-do list conceptually. It's all
Right.
things that you have to do. And one thing I like to tell people is that every project is bigger than you think it is. It's every single one. And so you need to actually break it down and think about it. If you have to replace the washer in the sink, well, you need to take the sink apart and get the washer and then obtain the right washer to replace it with and then put it back together. This is not a 5-minute job, but you think it is. And so you
Well,
keep
but you think it is, especially if you think I'm just replacing a washer,
right. But
right? That in and of itself sounds very simple until you find out I don't have the right stuff. Oh, by the way, it's not just the washer, it's something else. It's a screen or a filter. So, okay, keep talking.
so breaking down projects is a huge help. And in the app, you can make different lists. So you could have different lists for different projects and then have different to-do items in between. Or you could have, organize it any way you want. You can make your own lists. You're an adult. And what you can do within each task is add subtasks.
Okay.
But I like to, if you're writing something down on paper, just try to figure out all the steps, doing a brain dump. Expect it to be messy because you're going to have all these things added in and these things you didn't think of. Like you're throwing a party. Okay, send the invitations, get the food. Oh, wait, I have to ask about food allergies and such when I send the invitations. So this isn't a 1-2. Okay, and I have to do that. So let me scribble that in. And oh, wait, who are we inviting? Are these two people still speaking to each other? It's all this stuff. And so you have all of these, I don't know, tangents written on this piece of paper, and it's this huge mess. And you get really frustrated and you think you're a total mess, but it was supposed to be a big mess. Now that it's all out, you can look at it and you can number things, you can figure out what order you can put them in, and just go from there.
So
Let-
does the task say I put them in the app? Okay.
Mhm.
So I need to kind of picture in my head how this might work because I adore technology that makes my life simpler. So if I put them in the app and I'm looking at it and I'm going, hmm, that's not right. Is it a drag and drop function? Do I have to delete and replace? How does that work?
Well, you can edit things. It's I don't yeah, no, there's no drag and drop. It is just mobile right now.
Okay.
Future, we have hopes for the future. But you can go in and edit it. You can delete something. You can add things. You can add a due date. You can add a reminder date and time. There's all sorts of things like that you can ascribe to an app. In fact, there we go. Let me open it up. I can't screen share, but I can, oh, pardon me. It's a cute little purple app. And okay, so it's
Oh,
open.
fun.
And let's go into a list, and I'm going to create a task, and I can assign what list it's going to, and I give it a name, a due date, a reminder. I can set it to repeat. If I set it to repeat daily, I can make it a habit to go on the habit tracker. And then there's notes and subtasks. And yeah, that's it. And you can edit and change those.
So when you're putting it in there and the due date, it automatically sequences your task for you then. So like I can see what's coming up most closely versus
Right.
what's further out. Okay.
Right. There's individual lists, including an inbox if you just want to throw everything in there. And then there's a today list, which is everything that should have been done before now, and some stuff that's due today. And if you want, if something's going to take a few days, you can put in a due date that's a few days before, so it shows up on your
Okay.
list. And then there's also a delegated list and a completed list, so that you can go back and look and see, okay, I did that. When did I do that? Or what do I have to follow up on because I delegated? And through it all, you can mark things skipped because you're trying to do too much.
So now I can see a lot of value in that. Can you do a retro? So say I've been doing this for a month.
Mhm.
Could I do a retrospective report or look to see how many things did I think I needed to do that I skipped and never actually needed to do, or how much am I doing, but I should have delegated? Is there a way to look at that and learn from it?
Not yet. um, you can look at past days, and it's and you can go back as far as you want. So you can look
Okay,
at
cool.
a whole week. You can look at it that way. And they change depending on the status. If it's skipped, it goes into italics, and if it's done, it gets stripped, strike through. Yeah, a report like that I would love that. But the habit tracker is already a bit of a report. As long as it's tracked as a habit, then it's just by week. It's just here's the habit, the name of the habit, and just little circles. And which days did you do it?
Oh,
And
that's
there's
sweet. Yeah.
no streaks, because who cares if you didn't do it for one day?
So let's talk about ambition. That whole kind of like, uh-oh, I missed a day. Now what? So how do you balance that with just giving yourself grace?
Oh, it's hard. It really is, even for me. And I still find myself kicking myself that my business isn't exactly the same as everyone else's, but who cares? It's not what I want. And I'm a different person, and it's a different business. It's not a coaching business. I was coaching for a while. It just didn't work for me. It just didn't feel like something I wanted to do. So, what I try to remind myself is that, being a professional imperfectionist means I'm not a hot mess. I'm an inspiration. And that is actually quite true. It's a joke, but also, if I'm okay with me making myself making mistakes, it gives everyone around me permission to be okay with not being perfect.
Yep.
And then when they do it, it passes on. It just spreads out in ripples. It's just, it's kind of tricky to talk to myself and to think of myself as, with the same respect and kindness that I would give to someone else.
So that leads me to a different question for you because your creative work, like mixed media art, you've influenced others. But how has that affected, your creative side? How has that affected or influenced rather your approach to how you work? If it has.
It has, actually. The mixed media art, it started as a bit of art therapy for myself. I get migraines. So a few years ago, I was doing the mind body health thing, where you're trying to work through a lot of your issues, and perfectionism is one of them. Definitely. And it is something that can trigger migraines. It's the stress of not being perfect and putting all this pressure on yourself. And so I started making collages because I was no good at it, and I didn't care that I was no good at it. I don't play guitar well, but I know too many professional musicians to be okay with that. I don't draw well, and I've been told I used to draw more often. I've been told a million times, if you practice, you can be great at it. And so not being great at it right now bugs me so much. But collages, who cares? The first ones, I actually literally ripped pages, ripped pictures out of magazines and scotch taped them to a piece of paper. And cooking magazines are fantastic for this because there's lots of pictures of fire and knives, and you can really work out your anger that way.
I was going to say that tells a story in and of itself.
Yes. And it did a lot for me. It just helped me get used to not being perfect at everything. And I got better at it. I've been doing it for several years now, and it's a lot of fun. And I'm not trying to become a professional. I'm not trying to sell them. My big collages, I've been actually cutting them into pieces to use them as backgrounds for small collages. And everything is art supplies. Everything is art supplies. But I'm making something pretty, and if I'm the only one who sees it, that's okay. I'm just putting beauty out into the world.
So, has that also affected how you lead, your approach to leadership then when you've got that kind of like, I'm doing this for me. It doesn't have to be perfect. Putting beauty out into the world. I would imagine that has some sort of effect on how you approach leadership and your work in general. Has it had an effect?
Well, it certainly makes it. I've gotten better at not expecting perfection from other people and just being more patient. In my tech career, I was told several times, you don't suffer fools gladly. And my reaction is, of course not. They're fools. Be smarter. If they would be smarter, I would be nicer. And now I've been able to slow down, take a breath, and give people some grace and realize there's different kinds of intelligence and there's different kinds of speed. And I'm not good at plenty of things. So, it's okay. It's different now. I can be a lot more patient with everyone.
That's helpful for your own system.
Yes.
I I have noticed in my own life, the more patient I am, just the better I feel, period. Headache wise, sleep wise, all of it. Um, so I'm curious for you, given the type of work you do and this app and all of that, what roles visibility and representation play in your work or in your art?
Mhm. Uh, well, in the work, it's podcasts. For a while there, I was doing a lot of social media posting, and I still do social media posting, of course, but it's just not necessarily what I want to do. When you get several migraines a week, it's hard to stay consistent, and it's hard to think, okay, yeah, I'll just I'll go live on Instagram. Oh wait, I need some decent lighting. I'm in my pajamas all day. Let me do just okay, I can't do that. I'll do it tomorrow instead. So, going on podcasts and video casts, that is my preferred way right now of being visible. And yeah, hearing myself talk and looking at myself on the screen, it is not easy because I know that I'm stumbling around and that's okay. I stumble over my words. I've been rewatching I Love Lucy, actually. And one thing I've noticed is that if they start to stumble over what they're about to, their lines, they keep going because in real life, if you start to misspeak, you can change in the middle of a sentence. And I'm sure it had to do with their filming schedule too and all that, but it's inspired me to be okay with not being able to form complete sentences off the top of my head.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. When I first started the podcast, I was really like, I would edit the heck out of it. If I stumbled, I'd go to the beginning of that word and clip it. And I thought, okay, but in real life, I stumble. People who are listening stumble, right? Unless you're an orator and you do that all the time and you have prepared speeches, we stumble. And I thought, well, then I'm just going to do me.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in the guest. I don't care if you stumble either, because I just won't invest in making you different than you truly are. So, and I don't mean that to sound harsh, but it's
Oh,
like
no,
there's
no,
nothing wrong with how you show up, right? You showed up.
exactly. And I have a Facebook group and I used to go live in the group and I would just start rambling and just talking about a subject or whatever. And, after a couple minutes, I'd be like, oh, you poor people having to listen to this. And a friend of mine sent me a message afterwards and said, don't do that. It makes me feel bad because I've been enjoying you stumbling around and looking for new sentences and looking for the right word. And I like that. So don't make me feel bad for liking that.
I find most people are more self-conscious. Um, and even this young man I met today, we were talking and he tells me his name and yada, yada. And I says, I'm not going to remember your name. I'm just telling you that right now. And he goes, oh, I won't remember yours either. And I go, and he's like 25. And I
Yeah.
go, nothing personal. I said, but there's so much information that comes in all the time, all the time. The next thing that comes in is going to bump that, right? Unless I write it down and do my mind mapping stuff when that's all good. But I also find like people aren't that offended by it. It's like, just be honest. I try to do better all the time and link it, so there's some connection for who I'm talking to. And yet, if you and I did a project together, an art project together, I would never forget your name, right? There's something about the doing with the
Hmm.
person, and that's just how my brain is wired. It's always been that way. So I think giving yourself grace and just going, well, I can keep working on getting better, but people forget things. And I've noticed it not really age specific either, because I know our grandkids do, and it's just we're distracted.
Yes.
So
I was talking to someone about this the other day. I rarely address people by their name because I'm from a very large extended family. My mom is the oldest of six. And it is a tradition in this family to just call people by the wrong name while you're looking right at them. And it goes back to my grandparents who only had the six, and those six had 21 grandkids or 17 or so. Many. It's 17. And those 17 have now produced 21 or more great grandkids. And the more kids, the more you're like, which one are you? And it's just too much pressure. So everyone is sweetie, or I could just address them. Just look at them when I'm talking to them
yeah.
because I'm going to get it wrong.
Yeah,
And
and I think it's really the heart that you bring that matters. People can tell if you're just yakking at them and you don't care, versus when you come in and you say, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" and you are invested. You do think about them. You mentioned that you have your own career advisory board. Is that right?
yes, a couple of months ago, I grabbed a couple of friends, former clients and former coworkers, and brought them into a group chat. I said, "Do you want to be on my advisory board?" And they were like, "Yes, yes, of course, I'd love to." And it was at this point where I was just wondering, what am I even doing with my life? I was still doing the coaching, but it just didn't feel right with the economy as it is. I just didn't feel like, yeah, let me go out and tell people to buy, spend $500 on this thing. And some of it is imposter syndrome, of course, but also I only started coaching because I got sucked into it while I was trying to promote the app. So, I talked to different people about, what should I be doing and what should I be juggling? Because one thing is I had actually temporarily lost my main writing client. And because they were having money troubles, and I'm back with them now. But it was like, if I am not writing a blog post telling middle-aged women that they are okay the way they are every Tuesday, then who am I? I don't even know who I am anymore. What am I doing? And, but now I'm doing it again, and it feels wonderful. But it was like, okay, I need to make a living. So, what's your advice? Reaching out to marketing agencies, getting more freelance writing clients, turning what I am doing now. It's not ready yet, but I'm turning the coaching programs into books, and I'm putting together an imperfect gratitude journal, and so I'm doing things like that are also going to get out there. But really, I'm promoting the app because it's not helping anybody if they don't know about it.
Yep. So now, how did the advisory board help? Did they just listen and bounce back what you were sharing with them, or they do brainstorming with you, or how did you take advantage of that?
Well, I pretty much did the dump, the brain dump, like I just did. And the one person was like, "Okay, this is what you do: is you need to get money now. You need to get more writing clients. Go to the agencies. They'll get you someone faster. And then this, and then that, and and some of the advice was, I actually separately asked my brother, and my husband laughed when I said I was going to have my brother involved because he has no idea what I do for a living. And so his advice was like, well, do like what I just did. Get a job working for the city. That's fine for you, but no. And I have another friend who's a techie, a project manager. He's my backup brain, we're each other's backup brain because both of us have spouses who don't work in technology. And, he was like, okay, here's, he and I have talked about doing a podcast together. And he's like, oh, just don't do a catchphrase. I hate when people do catchphrases. And I'm like, but I've been saying stay imperfect. That's my sign off for years now. So no. So some of the advice is like, no, all right, that's not gonna work. One person said, well, what about the novel you were working on? And yeah, that's true. That's I actually have a couple of novels in progress. I made a conscious choice to put it aside so I could focus on getting Accomplist built and getting it out into the world. But yeah, I guess it's about time where I could actually get back to that. That's my degree is in creative writing. It's that's what I was, intending to do with my life. Back when publishing, you could actually make a living at it. And I did not do that. I went into technology instead, which is fine. That's the thing is that we don't have one path in life.
True.
Even, in the 90s, it was known that you were probably going to have like 5 or 6 different careers in your life. And so it's important, but if it's not working, if it doesn't feel right, then you can stop. You could go do something else. And, that's what I did with the coaching. My energy is limited because of the migraines. So not, not having to pull myself together because I'm scheduled to coach somebody is good. Not, just it was not working for me.
Well, I think that self-awareness is super important. Like what works for me. And what works for you 1 year may not work a year and a half or 2 years later. And it's sometimes difficult to say, okay, but I've invested that time and energy, blah, blah, blah. But nothing's lost, right? You've changed as a result of what you've learned and done in that space. So I think it's a really brave act to pivot, especially when you recognize that continuing on the path you're on could be detrimental.
Right.
Like more migraines. Who needs that?
Yes. With the app, I keep doing a check because, all right, do I have the sunk cost fallacy? And is this still no, this? And I keep checking with my husband. Yes, this is still a worthwhile thing. It is good that this exists and people should know about it and use it. It's a good idea. And if certain parts of Accomplist aren't working the way working for me, fine. For a couple of weeks there, I was actually looking into getting some investor money to get the app built. And I walked around for days going, this is not what I wanted. This is not what I wanted. And saying it out loud repeatedly. And it still took me days to realize this is not what I want. So I don't have to do it that way.
Right, exactly. And I think that way, however the way is, might be right for someone else. But when we do stuff that isn't right for us or we haven't shaped it, right? So it works for us in the best way possible so we can show up the best. Um, I don't think you ever put your whole heart into it. It's kind of like dragging your feet to something and just checking it off your list versus putting it on your list with intention.
Right.
So,
It's I have to do as opposed to I want to do.
right. And I love having the stuff I want to do, and but that was a pivot for me learning that stuff, right? And then it's a habit change and all of that. But I do want you to know that we've been talking about this app, and I know there are people going, get over it. Tell us where we can get the app. So where can people get the app?
Well, it's available in Google Play and the Apple App Store. It's called Accomplist, which is accomplished with a T instead of an H. And you can go to accomplist.app, and that has links to the stores and other stuff. And yeah, so that's where Accomplist lives mostly. On Instagram and Facebook, it is at Team Accomplished.
Okay.
And because you're on the team, join the team. And also the name at Accomplist was taken. Um, it's too clever a name, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, so just go to accomplist.app and
Okay.
or support in the stores. And there is a 7-day free trial. And after that, it is 99 cents a month or $9.99 a year.
That's a bargain.
Yeah.
So, okay. So say that I bought the app. What is the first 3 things you want me to do with it so I can love this app?
Okay. Well, first, there's a little tutorial. There's a video. There's a video version of the tutorial on the website. But
Okay.
you open the app and the first time you log in, it takes you through, okay, this is where you click for that, and that's where you click for that. So go through that. That's first. And second, think about what lists you want, how you want to break things down. And you can change that too. So create a list. There's already the inbox, but maybe you want to have a podcasting list and then a separate coaching list. Think about that. And then start transferring your current list. Right now it's not sophisticated enough. We can't just load it in there. But while you're copying it over, this is time to decide to not do certain things. And just okay, I'm really going to skip it. It's not getting into the new app.
It is a good time to clean house. Absolutely. On your calendar, on your list of to-do things. It's like, that's just there. I actually have no intention of doing it. I'm not even going to put it in the app. So,
Exactly.
yeah. Sweet. Okay. Now I got these questions from a previous podcast guest. I like to ask them of myself probably quarterly. So I'm going to ask them of you. What do you believe?
I believe that the only thing that makes the universe bearable is love. Is the love that we have, the different kinds of love, not just romantic love, but the love that we have for each other and
Okay.
and the kindness.
Second question, where do you want to go in life?
Oh. Well, physically, I would like to be in a large house with a backyard instead of a little apartment. But uh, where I want to be in life is creating. In that dream house, I've got a little art studio, and I also have my little writing area, my working area, so I can write some fiction and do some nonfiction writing like I do, and all the different things. I like doing a lot of different things,
Okay.
and that keeps me happy. So that's the life, is where I would have the time, energy, and space to do a whole bunch of different little things.
Sounds to me like it's all creative things.
Well,
Okay,
even if it's corporate writing, like blogging for a clothing
still
company,
creative, right?
yeah, it's still creating something
Yeah.
out of nothing.
Okay, so last question. What are you willing to sacrifice to find the answers?
Oh, ooh, that is an interesting one.
He was an interesting guy.
What am I willing to sacrifice? Respect, I guess, because it's most of my family doesn't know what I do for a living. Actually, now that there's the app, my parents actually know what I do for a living now. So that's exciting. But I've got cousins who are lawyers, who are in finance, who are actually retired before the age of 60, which I envy so much, but that's not the path that I am. And okay, that's fine. I didn't do that, and I didn't want to do that, and that's okay.
Okay.
So it's respect from people who don't necessarily get this crazy, messy life that I enjoy.
All right. Well, thank you for being willing to answer those three questions. Um, I like to give our podcast guest the last word on the show. So, what advice, quote, something that you kind of like to think on, would you like to leave our listeners with as we end this show?
Oh, okay. In the words of Big Bird, everyone makes mistakes, so why not you?
Oh, that's so good. I love it. Okay, listeners, that was some wisdom in there. And we talked about a lot of, I feel like we've been in a popcorn bag in the microwave popping on some different topics. But there's been nuggets throughout shared by Jen. So I hope that if you enjoyed this episode or you took away some nuggets, maybe even Big Bird's info, share the episode with a friend. Please give us a rating and review. We would love that because it helps get the show heard and noticed by other people and helps Jen learn more about it, get her people to learn more about her app, Accomplist. I am actually going to head out over there and watch the tutorial and learn about it when we hang up here.
Awesome.
So, hang up. It's a Zoom. Hang up.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jen, I've appreciated having you on the podcast. And until we meet virtually or otherwise.
Yeah, thanks. This has been a lot of fun.
You've been listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author, change agent, and strategic business coach, Sarah Box. You can grab the show notes and find out how to work with Sarah at sarahbox.com/no labels, no limits podcast. We'd love this podcast to reach as many people as possible. Please remember to rate, leave a 5-star review, and share the podcast with someone you think would get value from this conversation. Till next time, keep taking those daily action steps to align your purpose to your principles and achieve your goals in business and life.